I don't think that you could run a 100 session campaign about the Goblin King. At a certain point, you're probably ready to move on from the threat of the Goblin King. All the stuff that I'm saying about inspiration, aspiration, that applies to the players at the table too. What game does everybody want to make together? And I think that most dungeon masters would probably snatch up the opportunity if their players were like, "Listen, can we just if what if the entire campaign took place on like a mountain, like there were a series of communities in the mountains, and there was a threat just to those people, right?" Construct random question: why is it that dungeon masters want their big bad to be like a god or the living embodiment of ego or id? Why not have them be, I don't know, like Argonaut the Goblinator King? I think it's influences. I think it's inspiration and aspiration. I think that if you are inspired by Lord of the Rings, I think if you're inspired by epic, 100 plus session, like 4 hour session long Critical Role, where they're affecting the world and doing all this crazy epic stuff and fighting gods and whatever else. I think that's where it comes from. I think if instead you come to the game with inspiration coming from smaller stories, more character driven stories, like you can. I don't think that you could run a 100 session campaign about the Goblin King. At a certain point, you're probably ready to move on from the threat of the Goblin King. But you could certainly run probably a kick-ass, 10 to 20 session long campaign about the Goblin King. So this is something that I've been thinking about, right? Like my two active big bads right now are a big, it's somebody trying to become a god, like a resurrected god sort of thing, and the other one is 1,000-year-old lich. So, those are pretty big, right? I guess a lich could even probably ascend, potentially as well, or descend, depending on your perspective. But my 10 session long island campaign, I mean, big bad, they might fight. It's really more about like it might be a pirate captain or like an engineer final boss. Maybe they'll fight a sea monster that is plaguing the island. Like it's going to be pretty small scale compared to everything else. I mean, it should have a big impact, right? Like you want stories to matter, but sometimes that's more about the characters and the story rather than like, oh, it's going to shake and shape the world. And I think players have a role to play in this too, because I think if dungeon masters see players caring more about the small scale, caring more about characters and getting more involved in, you know, the threats to the town, the threats to the region rather than the big epic threat to the world, like all the stuff that I'm saying about inspiration, aspiration, that applies to the players at the table too. What game does everybody want to make together? And I think that most dungeon masters would probably snatch up the opportunity if their players were like, "Listen, can we just what if the entire campaign took place on like a mountain, like there were a series of communities in the mountains, and there was a threat just to those people, right? Maybe it's fairly isolated. Maybe they don't even travel the rest of the world, but like that's the threat. The giants are coming, and we've got to deal with that. That'll only affect these people in the mountains. I think stuff like that. I think would be really really interesting, or maybe small scale. I know I said small scale and I said giants, but you know what I mean. Giants aren't gods. You could even make them half giants. Then it's half as big. I'd be amused by an anime called Goblin Slayer. It's an anime that focuses only on low level killing goblins, while the idea that the other adventures focus on being the actual heroes. Yeah, maybe. Sounds adjacent to the commoner one shot. I mean, well, at a certain point, right? Like you can only compete so much with big stuff. Big epic. You got 15 dragons in this story. You can only do that so many times. And then it's like, well, what if we told a really interesting story just within the confines of one town? One town and like the forest outside of town, right? What if it was just all about this witch, and this witch has like twisted everything into ridiculous knots, and saving the town is gonna be the campaign. Small scale, I feel like there's a lot to mine from that. Now, that's just because that's where my attention's turning, right? As I finish these two big long epic campaigns, I'm sure I'll come back to wanting to do one eventually, but for now I'm like, okay, what can I come up with? What can I do that's epic in a different way? Yeah, I haven't, I don't plan very far ahead. Right now it's just all about my party moving through hell. Um, haven't thought about what it's going to look like when they have their final fight against a god. I'll have to think about that at some point. You find if I wanted to be left alone while I work, I wouldn't be on stream with you guys. Yeah, and like I said, my system on the left is what I write, is how I put it together. But then here on the right is me sort of converting it into fifth edition sort of standard, the way people expect it to be written. Yeah, based on like the monster manual and stuff. So this is a unique case. I'm actually prepping a one shot that I've written, which is just a single session of a game. I'm prepping to release it. This is all still dummy imagery and stuff like that, but I'm basically working on laying out how to run it, so that I can release it. Well, eventually I'll release it for sale everywhere, but initially it'll be like a Patreon thing for a while, I think, until I get everything sort of fine tuned. So yeah, so that's what I'm doing here. I wrote, basically, I kind of, a session, a one shot that I created and ran a couple times for my players. I made a video about once on the channel, and people really liked it. So when I started to think about what I wanted to release, this was one that came to mind. So I kind of revisited my old notes that I scrapped together for myself, and created 6 new monsters for it, and a townfolk, like a commoner stat block. The premise of this is that a town is defending itself without heroes, so everybody basically randomly rolls for townsfolk, and it's kind of like a buzzsaw. You're sort of like, they're desperately trying to defeat this monster. Odds are stacked against them. Your member of town goes down, you draw another one, and it's just sort of like a fun sort of side game, one shot type of thing. But that's yeah. These stats are unique in that sense, but I do create my own stat blocks too. Just depends on the situation. Oh, really? That's cool, Colin. Yeah, the fun part is, well, there's a bunch of fun stuff to it, but something that's neat too is that I think, yeah, a lot of this is still a mess while I'm working on it, but they're also, after the one shot is complete, it could be the start of a campaign. So like whoever technically succeeded in defending the town could basically, you could recreate those townsfolk as like level 1 or level 2 characters, and that could become the start of a campaign. Or they could be like an antagonistic force, or just used as like world building, just as a way to create characters and a history of a town. Lots of different ways to use it. It's pretty flexible.